Sometimes you just have to ask for what you deserve. I'm Logan. I'm 26. And I've never been the type to settle for less than I'm worth. Make sure to hit that like button if you enjoy my stories. And don't forget to subscribe if you're new here. Look, when you know your value, you shouldn't have to beg for it. Riley and I had been together for 2 years when he finally proposed 3 months ago. He's 28, works in tech, and makes good money. Not amazing, but decent enough that we weren't struggling. The proposal itself was sweet, I guess. He took me back to the coffee shop where we first met, got down on one knee, properly said all the right words about our future together. The ring was beautiful too. 1.2 carats, VS1 clarity. Ideal cut. I found out later he spent $8,500 on it, which seemed reasonable at the time. But then Aliyah got engaged. We were having our usual lunch at this little bistro downtown, me, Aliyah, and 3 other girls from our friend group. I was actually excited to show off my ring again. You know, it photographs well, it catches the light nicely. But the second Aliyah walked in, I knew I was screwed. Her ring was massive, like stupidly massive. 2 full carats, flawless clarity, the kind of rock that makes other women stop mid-conversation just to stare. She didn't even have to show it off. The thing was basically a beacon on her finger. "Oh my God, Logan, yours is so cute too," she said when she saw me looking. Cute. Not stunning, not gorgeous. Cute. Like it was some little promise ring from high school. The other girls immediately crowded around Aliyah, asking about the proposal, the wedding plans, how her fiancé surprised her. I sat there, trying to smile, while internally calculating the difference between our rings. Her fiancé worked in finance, made probably twice what Riley did, and apparently understood that when you love a woman, you don't cheap out on the most important piece of jewelry she'll ever wear. "How much did yours cost?" Aliyah asked me directly, and I could tell she already knew it was less than hers. Way less. Riley wanted it to be a surprise. I said, deflecting. But the damage was done. I could see it in their faces, the subtle pity, the way they looked at my ring differently now that they had something to compare it to. The worst part was that Riley could afford better. Just last month, he'd dropped $3,000 on some ridiculous gaming computer setup without even discussing it with me. $3,000 on something he'd used to play video games with his loser friends, but apparently $8,500 was his limit for the woman he claimed to want to spend his life with. That afternoon, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Every time I looked at my ring, all I could see was how small it looked, how inadequate it seemed next to Aliyah's. Riley was supposed to pick me up from work at 6, and I'd already decided I needed to say something. He showed up right on time in his boring sedan wearing one of his button-down shirts that made him look more like an accountant than someone who should be with me. Riley's not ugly exactly, but he's not particularly striking either. Average height, thinning hair that he's always running his fingers through when he's nervous, and this habit of overthinking everything to death instead of just taking action like a real man would. "How was lunch with the girls?" he asked as I got in the car. Fine," I said, then decided to just go for it. "Actually, there's something I wanted to talk to you about." I could see him tense up immediately. Riley hates confrontation, always has. It's one of his most annoying traits, this need to avoid any conversation that might be remotely uncomfortable. "The ring," I said, getting straight to the point. "I think we need to talk about upgrading it." He glanced at my hand, then back at the road. "Upgrading it. What's wrong with it?" "Nothing's wrong with it exactly. It's just small. Aliyah got engaged today, and her ring is 2 carats. Mine looks like a promise ring next to hers. So this is about Aliyah." The way he said it, like I was being petty or something, immediately pissed me off. "This is about you understanding that your fiancé shouldn't be embarrassed by her engagement ring. Do you know how it feels to have people look at my hand and then look away, to have to make excuses for why the man I'm marrying didn't think I was worth investing in properly?" Riley was quiet for a long moment, which was typical. He always needed time to process everything instead of just reacting like a normal person. "Logan, I saved for 6 months to buy that ring. I thought you loved it." I did love it. Past tense. Before I realized it was the bare minimum you were willing to spend on me. I turned to face him fully. "You just bought that stupid gaming computer for $3,000 without even asking me what I thought. But apparently when it comes to something I'll wear for the rest of my life, you need to budget. That's different." "How is it different?" "Because it's something you wanted versus something I want." He didn't answer, which told me everything I needed to know. We drove the rest of the way home in silence, but I could tell he was thinking about it. Riley might be frustrating, but he's not completely clueless. He had to see my point. That night, I brought it up again while we were watching TV. "I've been looking online," I said, showing him my phone. "We could trade up for maybe 4,000 or 5,000 more. It doesn't have to be as big as Aaliyah's, but something closer to 2 carats would be perfect. Riley took my phone and scrolled through the rings I'd bookmarked. His face was unreadable, which was another one of his annoying habits. The man had zero emotional transparency. These are all really expensive, Logan. They're investments. This isn't some trendy piece of jewelry I'll get tired of in a year. This is my engagement ring, the ring I'll wear to every important event for the rest of our lives. Don't you want people to see it and think you chose well? I thought I did choose well. I chose you. It was a sweet answer, but it completely missed the point. I'm not talking about choosing me. I'm talking about choosing a ring that reflects how you feel about me. Right now, it feels like you went with the first decent option you found instead of really thinking about what would make me happy. Riley closed my phone and handed it back to me. Can I think about it? Of course, he needed to think about it. Riley couldn't order dinner without weighing all his options for 20 minutes. But I could see I was getting through to him, so I decided to give him some space to come to the right conclusion on his own. The next few days were tense. Riley was quieter than usual, which is saying something since he's not exactly a chatterbox on his best days. He'd catch me looking at my ring and get this weird expression on his face, like he was trying to solve some complicated equation in his head. Meanwhile, I was getting more and more frustrated every time I looked at my hand. Aaliyah had posted like 15 pictures of her ring on social media, each one getting dozens of comments about how stunning it was. My own engagement photos from a few months ago suddenly looked pathetic in comparison. Finally, I decided to just text him about it. Sometimes Riley responds better to written communication anyway, gives him time to process without feeling put on the spot. We need to talk about the ring, I wrote. My friends keep making comments and it's embarrassing. Aaliyah's ring is 2 carats and mine looks like a promise ring next to hers. I know you can afford better. You just bought that stupid gaming computer for 3 cows. I need you to upgrade this ASAP. I sent it while he was at work, figuring he'd have all day to think about his response. When my phone buzzed an hour later, I was expecting either a long explanation about finances or maybe some questions about what exactly I wanted. Instead, I got 2 words, say no more. My heart actually skipped a beat. Finally, Riley was going to step up and do the right thing. I immediately texted back heart emojis and I knew you'd understand. Love you, babe. I spent the rest of the day planning how I'd tell the girls about the upgrade. Maybe post a little story about how Riley surprised me by wanting to get me something even more beautiful. I even started looking at wedding bands that would complement a larger center stone. When I got home that evening, I was practically bouncing with excitement. Riley's car wasn't in the driveway yet, but I figured he was probably at the jewelry store picking out my new ring, or at least getting the process started. I let myself into our apartment and immediately noticed something was off. It was too quiet and there were gaps on the shelves where some of Riley's stuff usually sat. His gaming computer was gone along with his monitor and all the cables. His collection of technical books had disappeared from the bookshelf. That's when I saw the ring box sitting on my makeup table, the same ring box he'd proposed with 3 months ago. There was a sticky note attached to the top. Return for full refund. You were right. You do deserve more. Good luck finding it. I stared at the note for a full minute before it sank in. He'd returned my ring. Actually returned it, gotten his money back, and left. Not upgraded it, not traded it in for something better, just returned it like some defective appliance he was done dealing with. I called him immediately. It went straight to voicemail. I called again. Same thing. I tried texting. What the hell is this supposed to mean? This isn't funny. Call me back. Nothing. I tried calling his work, but they said he'd left early. I drove to his friend Wyatt's place, but no one answered the door, even though I could see lights on inside. I sat in my car for 2 hours calling Riley over and over until my phone died. When I finally went back home, I found all of Riley's stuff was gone. His clothes, his toiletries, even the espresso machine he'd bought last year. The only things left were items we'd purchased together, furniture, kitchen, stuff, decorations. He'd taken only what was specifically his and left everything else behind. I plugged my phone in and immediately started calling everyone I could think of. His brother, his coworkers, his college friends. Either no one answered or they claimed they hadn't heard from him. I knew they were lying. By 10 p.m., I was furious. This was completely insane. You don't just disappear because your fiancé asked for a better ring. Normal people have conversations about these things. They work it out like adults. I drove back to Wyatt's place and pounded on the door until he finally answered. Where is he? I demanded. Wyatt looked uncomfortable but not surprised to see me. He's not here, Logan. Don't lie to me. His car is parked 2 blocks away. I saw it. He asked me not to get involved in this. Involved in what I asked him to upgrade my ring, and he had some kind of breakdown. This is insane. Wyatt actually laughed, which made me want to slap him. You asked him to upgrade an $8 $500 ring because your friend got a bigger one. So he could afford it. He wasted $3,000 on that stupid computer setup. That stupid computer setup was something he'd been saving for and researching for months. The ring was something he already gave you that you decided wasn't good enough. I could tell Wyatt was taking Riley's side, which wasn't surprising. Riley's friends had always been a little weird around me, like they thought I was too good for him or something. This is ridiculous, I said. Tell him to call me. We need to talk about this like adults. I don't think he wants to talk, Logan. I think he's pretty much said everything he needed to say. Wyatt closed the door, and I stood there for a few minutes trying to figure out my next move. This was clearly some kind of dramatic gesture meant to make me feel bad for having standards. Riley was probably expecting me to apologize and beg him to come back, accept whatever scraps he was willing to give me. But I wasn't going to play that game. If he wanted to act like a child, fine. I'd give him a few days to cool off and realize how stupid he was being. Then we could have a real conversation about this. Except days turned into a week, and Riley still wasn't answering my calls. I'd left probably 50 voicemails by then, ranging from angry to confused to hurt. Nothing seemed to get through to him. That's when I decided to involve my sister Clark. Clark's always been good at talking sense into people, and she has this way of making men feel guilty when they're being unreasonable. This is insane, Clark said after I explained this situation. He can't just disappear because you wanted a better ring. That's not how relationships work. Clark suggested we go to Wyatt's place together and demand to talk to Riley face to face. She even brought her phone to record the conversation in case Riley tried to lie about what happened later. When Wyatt opened the door and saw both of us standing there, he looked like he wanted to slam it shut again. We're here to talk to Riley, Clark announced, pushing past him into the apartment. This has gone on long enough. Riley was sitting on the couch looking tired, but not particularly upset. When he saw me, his expression didn't change at all. No guilt, no regret, nothing. It was like looking at a stranger. Finally, I said, do you want to explain what this tantrum is about because I'm completely lost? There's nothing to explain, Riley said calmly. You told me you were embarrassed by the ring I gave you. You said you deserve better. So I returned it? And now you can find someone who meets your standards. Clark immediately jumped in. She didn't mean it like that. She was just expressing her feelings. You can't end a relationship because someone has an opinion about jewelry. I didn't end the relationship because she had an opinion, Riley said. I ended it because she made it clear that an $8 $500 ring was embarrassing to her. If that's how she really feels, then we're not compatible. It's not about the money, I said, even though it kind of was. It's about effort. It's about showing that you care enough to really think about what would make me happy. I spent 6 months saving for that ring. I went to 4 different jewelers. I researched cuts and clarity and settings. I thought about what would look good on your hand and what style matched your personality. But apparently none of that matters because Aaliyah got a bigger one. The way he said it made me sound shallow, which wasn't fair. You're twisting this into something it's not. You texted me that your friends were making fun of your ring, and it was embarrassing. You compared it to a promise ring. You said I could afford better and demanded I upgrade it ASAP. Which part of that did I misunderstand? Clark was recording all of this, and I could tell she was getting frustrated with Riley's attitude. You're being completely unreasonable. Logan loves you. She just wanted something that reflected that love better. If Logan loved me, she wouldn't have been embarrassed by a ring I spent months choosing for her. She would have told her friends to mind their own business instead of demanding I spend more money to fix her hurt feelings. That's when I realized Riley wasn't going to back down from this. He'd made up his mind that I was the bad guy here, and nothing I said was going to change that. Fine, I said. If this is how you want to handle things, I'll take you to court. You can't just steal someone's engagement ring and disappear. There are laws about this stuff. Riley actually smiled, which was infuriating. I didn't steal your ring. I returned my ring. The ring I bought with my money that you decided wasn't good enough. You're welcome to sue me for returning my own property. You can't just cancel our wedding like this. I've already started planning. My dress, the venue, everything. What wedding? You don't have a ring. There's no engagement. And I canceled all the deposits yesterday. My stomach dropped. You what? I called the venue, the photographer, the caterer. Got most of the money back except for a few hundred in cancellation fees. Small price to pay. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Riley had actually canceled our entire wedding without even discussing it with me. This wasn't just some dramatic gesture anymore. He was serious about ending things. You're going to regret this, I told him. When you realize what you're giving up, it's going to be too late. I don't think I will, Riley said. But good luck with everything, Logan. I hope you find someone who can afford the kind of ring you deserve. Clark and I left after that, but she kept recording as we walked to the car. This is what happens when weak men can't handle strong women who know their worth, she said to the camera. My sister deserves so much better than this. I was still in shock. 3 months ago, Riley had been talking about our future together, planning our life, acting like I was the most important thing in the world to him. Now he was treating me like some gold digger who'd never meant anything to him. But I wasn't going to let him get away with this. If Riley thought he could humiliate me and just walk away, he was about to learn otherwise. I spent the next week documenting everything. The ring, the canceled wedding, the emotional distress he'd caused me. I found a lawyer who specialized in relationship disputes and explained the situation. So he returned an engagement ring he'd given you and canceled wedding plans, the lawyer asked. Yes, without any discussion or warning. I've lost money on my dress, my shoes, all the planning I'd already done, plus the emotional damage of being abandoned like this. The lawyer looked skeptical. What exactly prompted him to return the ring? I explained about Aaliyah's engagement and how I'd asked Riley to consider upgrading my ring to something more comparable. The lawyer took notes but didn't seem particularly encouraging. I'll be honest with you, he said finally. This is going to be a difficult case. He returned his own property after you expressed dissatisfaction with it. The wedding deposits were paid by him, so he had the right to cancel them. The emotional distress claim might have some merit, but you'd need to prove damages. What about breach of promise he proposed to me? That's a contract. Breach of promise suits are very rare these days, and most states don't recognize them. You'd have a better chance in small claims court, but even then, I'm not sure what damages you could prove. I decided to file anyway. Riley needed to understand that there were consequences for treating people the way he'd treated me. I asked for $25,000, the cost of the wedding deposits, my dress and accessories, emotional distress, and lost wages, from all the time I spent dealing with this mess. When Riley got served with the papers, he actually called me for the first time in 2 weeks. Are you serious right now? He said when I answered. Dead serious. You humiliated me and cost me thousands of dollars. Did you think there wouldn't be consequences? Logan, you're suing me for not marrying you. Do you understand how that sounds? I'm suing you for breach of contract and emotional damages. You made promises you didn't keep. Riley was quiet for a moment. Fine, I'll see you in court. The court date was set for 6 weeks later, which gave me time to prepare my case. I gathered screenshots of all our texts, photos of us together to prove we'd had a serious relationship, receipts for everything I'd bought for the wedding, even a spreadsheet calculating the lifetime earnings I'd potentially lost by not marrying Riley. I also convinced my mom to testify on my behalf. She was furious with Riley for abandoning me and agreed to speak about the emotional trauma I'd suffered. The day of court, I wore a white dress to make a statement. This was supposed to be about justice, about holding Riley accountable for his actions. But from the moment the judge started reviewing the evidence, I could tell things weren't going my way. Ms. Logan, the judge said, you're suing because he canceled a wedding. He promised to marry me, then abandoned me over a simple request for a better ring. The request being to spend more money on a ring because your friends made fun of the first one. When she put it like that, it sounded bad. But that wasn't the whole story. It wasn't about my friends. It was about him showing that he valued me enough to invest in something meaningful. The judge reviewed Riley's evidence. My texts demanding the upgrade, the receipt for the original ring documentation of the harassment I'd put him through, trying to get him to respond. Ms. Logan, you cannot sue someone for ending a relationship, even an engagement. You cannot sue for wedding deposits that were paid by him. You cannot claim emotional distress when your own messages show you initiated the conflict by expressing dissatisfaction with his gift. But what about my dress? All the money I spent preparing for a wedding he canceled? You bought a dress. That was your choice. He didn't force you to make that purchase. The judge dismissed my case completely and granted Riley a restraining order requiring me to stay 500 feet away from him and cease all contact. I was devastated. Not only had I lost the case, but now I was legally prohibited from even trying to fix things with Riley. Outside the courthouse, my mom tried to comfort me. This is discrimination, she said. They're protecting him just because he's a man. But I could see it in people's faces. They thought I was the problem here. They thought I was some kind of gold digger who'd gotten what I deserved. The worst part was that the court case had become public record. Within a few days, local news picked up the story as a human interest piece about modern relationship expectations. The comments online were brutal. She wanted a bigger ring, and he left. King behavior. Your girlfriend sounds exhausting. Accountability for what not being her bank account? Team ex-boyfriend. I tried dating apps, but someone always recognized me as ring girl, and unmatched. My story had gone viral in our city, and everyone had an opinion about what had happened. Meanwhile, I heard through mutual friends that Riley was doing great. He'd gotten a new apartment, seemed happier than he'd been in months, was even dating someone new. Of course he was dating someone new, probably some low-maintenance girl who'd be thrilled with whatever scraps he decided to throw her way. Someone who didn't have standards or self-respect. It's been 8 months now since Riley walked out, and I'm still single. I've been on maybe a dozen first dates, but nothing ever goes anywhere. Either the guys can't afford the lifestyle I'm used to, or they've heard about what happened and think I'm some kind of gold digger. The truth is, I wasn't asking for anything unreasonable. I wanted a ring that reflected the kind of relationship we had, the kind of future we were building together. I wanted Riley to care enough about my happiness to make an effort. But apparently that was too much to ask from someone who'd rather spend $3,000 on video games than make sure his fiancé felt valued and respected. I saw Clark last week, and she told me Riley's new girlfriend posted a picture of some cheap silver ring she got at an art fair, talking about how perfect it was. No carat count, no brand name, just some handmade piece of junk that probably cost $50. It made me sick. Not because I was jealous, but because it proved everything I suspected about Riley. He was perfectly capable of making someone happy. He just hadn't been willing to do it for me. He'd rather find someone with lower standards than step up and be the kind of man I deserved. People keep telling me I dodged a bullet, that I'm better off without someone who'd abandon me over something so small. But I know the truth. Riley wasn't some innocent victim in all this. He was a selfish man who'd rather throw away 2 years together than admit he'd been cheap with the most important purchase of our relationship. I deserve someone who understands that love isn't just about words and gestures. It's about investment. It's about showing the world that the woman you chose is worth whatever it takes to make her happy. Riley failed that test, and now he's someone else's problem. I just hope whoever she is realizes what she's really getting into before it's too late. Because when the honeymoon phase ends and real life starts, she's going to discover that Riley's idea of love comes with a very strict budget attached. And me, I'm still looking for someone who gets it. Someone who understands that when you truly love a woman, you don't nickel and dime the relationship. You invest in it properly right from the start. The ring was never just about the ring. It was about respect, effort, and understanding what really matters. Riley never understood that, and that's why we could never work. I'm better off without him.